and Technology going, and he earned his PhD in mechanical engineering uh, from IIT Kanpur, and his current research work involves the investigation of efficient algorithms for engineering, optimization, evolutionary computation, constant and multi-objective optimization, surrogate assisted optimization, memetic algorithms, numeric neural network, machine learning, derivative free optimization, knowledge extraction from data, manufacturing, and robotics. His research has been published in 14 international STI journals. Most of them are in top 20 in the appropriate field, according to Google Scholar ranking. And few under reviews, two edited books with a Springer, and four book chapters, around 50 international conferences, and more than 10 national conferences. According to Google Scholar citation, he has more than 630 citations for his research. So I once again welcome Dr. Rituparna Datta. Sir, over to you. You can start your session now.
Thanks for the introduction. Can you see my screen?
No, sir. No, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Comfortable, sir.
Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. First, I would like to thank the organizer who invite me for this lecture. Actually, IoT and smart cities may be new for some of the participants, and this is also one of the exciting research area for us. So we are also exploring IoT and smart city because it is just in its infant stage. So there are lot of things to do. Myself, Rituparna Datta, and my research interests are mainly optimization and data science. Okay, so I have divided my talk in few parts. First is I will tell about optimization and some of my work related to optimization. Then I will also speak about data science, and then I will tell some preliminary.
Sir, your voice is breaking, sir.
Is it better now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, please tell me if it is breaking.
Sure, sir.
Okay, so first I will speak about optimization, then I will tell about some of my research work in optimization and data science. Then I move to IoT and some basics about IoT. So maybe most of you might be knowing, but then also it will be a brush up in IoT and little bit introduction of our work in the combination of IoT and optimization, and then little bit about smart city. Basically, the thing is, what is the advantage of IoT, or what is the correlation of optimization, IoT and data science? Because with the invention of IoT, so there are lots of data are getting generated, which help us to do more efficient decision making. And that's why IoT has a very good link with optimization and data science. Okay, without further delay, let me start my lecture. And so for question and answer, I would like to have two options. So let us say that if you have any doubt from a particular slide, I would encourage you to ask the question immediately so that we can have the discussion, and then I will go further. On the other hand, if you would like to discuss that after the talk, that is also fine with me. So both way I am fine. But only thing is, if you have any specific query or specific doubt, please ask in that specific slide, so that sometime if you got stuck or if you have some doubt, maybe later slide will be a little bit difficult for you to focus, or maybe you may lose interest. Okay, so basically what is optimization? You can see the picture. There are many people are in the train. So this is a typical Indian scenario, even as the event is going in Maharashtra. So maybe most of you have an experience with the local train in Mumbai. So basically what is optimization? In the right side you can see in the picture, and in the left side you can see the goal of optimization is to achieve better things, than to gain more profit, than to determine the best, and to acquire more with less effort. So how the picture in the left and right are correlated? First is, traveler has to go from the source to destination, and time is limited. So that's why what is their goal? Their main purpose is to reach from source to destination. So that's why maybe without buying the ticket also, somehow they are getting boarded to the train so that they can go to the destination. So here their only goal is to go from source to destination. On the other hand, if we have a goal of maximum safety, will it be a feasible solution, or will it be a good solution? Of course not, because as safety is the main issue, so it is not safe. But only thing is, as my goal is to go from source to destination, it's a better approach. So now what are the ingredients of optimization? The optimization basically has three ingredients. One is constraints. What is constraint? So constraint is some kind of restriction. Let us say that when you are boarding in the train, what are the restriction? The ideal scenario should be number of seat equal to number of passengers. So this is the ideal scenario. Then let us say that as there is not much checking, so some people can stand and go to the destination. So here I am violating the constraint. And then the scenario which I have showed in the right side, that is actually too much violation of constraint. So basically, from engineering point of view, we have a search space, or we have some limit, and that by satisfying the constraints, we want to ensure that nothing is violated and we are satisfying all the restriction. Then comes the parameters or design variables. Design variables or parameters are basically the quantity by changing which we can satisfy the constraints. And more importantly, the main important part is the objective function. Objective function is also known as goal function. Let's say you want to achieve maximum profit. So let us say that you are a manufacturer of a IoT device. So now what is your goal? Your goal is to achieve maximum profit. So objective function is basically the goal function, and goal function is always either it is to be maximized or it is to be minimized. And then there are two kinds of optimization. One is called single objective optimization, and the other is called multi-objective optimization. As the name suggests, in single objective optimization, we have only one goal, and as you can see in the picture, you can see the global minimum. So global minimum is the minimum point in the whole search space, and I have also pointed out the global maximum. So global maximum is the maximum value in the search space. In addition to that, if we take a subset of the search space. So there could be local minimum and local maximum. On the other hand, for multi-objective optimization, we have two goals which are conflicting in nature. I will discuss that in more details, but here only difference is in single objective we have one goal, in multi-objective we have more than one goal. Okay, as I said, restrictions are very much important, because either we work with a problem from electrical domain, electronic domain, aerospace domain, mechanical domain, civil, any domain, computer science domain, there is a restriction of everything. And how the restrictions are coming into picture, the restriction comes either from some geometrical limitation or maybe some physical limitation. And mathematically, it can be formulated as either equality constraint, in which we have to satisfy the exact restriction. We can also formulate it as inequality constraint, in which we can have some tolerance. Now, if we have constraints, is it good or is it worse? Now, let us say that to make the question more easier, I can say that let us have 24 hours, and in this 24 hour, our goal is only to work. We don't need any food, we don't need any rest, we don't get tired. In that case, what could be the solution? The ideal solution is I will work for 24 hours. However, in practice, this is not the case. Why this is not the case? Because I get tired, I have to sleep, I have to take shower, I need some recreation. So now all these pose some difficulty and make the day span of 24 hours into lesser. Let's say I have to sleep 8 hours. So now my productive hour is 16. I have to spend 2 hours for eating, it's 14. Then 1 hour for taking shower, it is 15. So like that, basically constraints are basically shrinking my search space. Moreover, if the constraints are non-linear in nature or non-convex in nature, the problems gets more and more difficult. And penalty function approach is one of the very popular methodology, in which we put a penalty proportional to the constraint violation in case any of the constraints are violated. And then comes multi-objective optimization. Okay, now can any one of the participant, can you say from where you have, okay, so actually it's virtual, so I cannot ask this question. So let us say that one person has come to the venue from Mumbai. Now, to come to the venue from the Mumbai, he has three options. He can choose a flight, he can take a train, or he can travel by bus. And here, what could be my goal? My goal of traveling? One of my goal of traveling could be the minimization of cost, because when we travel, we don't want to pay unnecessary. On the other hand, we may have another goal, which is time. We don't want to waste time, because if you have plenty or infinite time, then you can go by walk also, which is impossible. So now let us take only three scenarios. One of my solution is flight, another is train, and another is bus. Now, if I take the flight solution, then my cost is highest and my time is lowest. On the other hand, if I take the solution bus, my time is highest and cost is lowest. So now, if I compare these two solutions with respect to cost and time, I cannot say which is better, because if time is my main priority, I will take a flight. On the other hand, if cost is my main priority, I will take a bus. So all these solutions are known as non-dominated solutions because these all solutions are having equal importance. Now the decision maker has to put the weight or think of some strategy which solution to take. So for here, the decision maker are the participants. Okay, so now what are the advantage and disadvantage of multi-objective optimization? One is this: it has many optimal solutions. As I already showed in my last slide, if we have only a single objective, we have only one solution. On the other hand, if we have multiple objectives, we have more than one solution. And the usual approach to solve this kind of problem are weighted sum approach, in which we put weight to the objective function, and then we have epsilon constant methodology, in which we make constraint to one of the objective and solve it as a single objective problem. And the algorithmic requirement is convergence and diversity. So what is convergence and what is diversity? Convergence is basically, by convergence we mean that how close we are from the base known solution. And what is diversity? Diversity is basically how diverse is my solution. Because as in multi-objective optimization, we achieve multiple solutions, so we basically need, or we basically want to have my solution more diverse, so that I can have a wide variety of choices to choose. Okay, now there are two types of multi-objective optimization. One of them is called classical multi-objective optimization, which, as the name suggests, is the classical way or the conventional way. On the other hand, we have another method which is called ideal multi-objective optimization. This is the ideal way. So as I show in the picture, in classical multi-objective optimization, we take multiple objective function, and then we take some higher level information from the designer or decision maker, that how much weight he or she wants to put to each objective function, and then with this weight we construct a weighted sum approach, and then we solve the problem as a single objective optimization problem. And then that solution we use in practice. But now what is the drawback or what is the advantage? One of the drawback is that even though I have multiple conflicting goals, here I am putting some weight and I am constructing it as a single objective problem, which means I have only single solution. On the other hand, my goal is to achieve multiple non-dominated solutions. On the other hand, in the ideal multi-objective optimization, we treat every objective function separately, and then we get trade-off solutions or non-dominated solutions, and from there, with some higher level information, I choose a solution. Now what is the difference? In the first one, before applying the optimization technique, I fix the weight. But in the ideal scenario, after having the solutions, I decide the weight. So here I have better choices for decision making because I can see all the possible options. Okay. These non-dominated solutions are also known as Pareto optimal solution, because one of the Italian scientist Pareto, he has discovered this. And in a two objective scenario, there is four possibilities. One is we have to minimize both the objective function, or we have to maximize both the objective function, or otherwise we have to minimize the first, maximize the second, or maximize the first, minimize the second. So these are only the four options. Okay, so now what is the difference between single and multi-objective optimization? As you see in the excuse me, as you see in the picture, in single objective we have only one optima, and in multi-objective we have multiple optima. Then multi-objective optimization requires search and decision making. And then as you see in the picture, in single objective optimization, I have only the decision space or variable space. You can see in the left hand side, I have the x, which is the variable, and I have the f, the objective function. On the other hand, in multi-objective optimization, I have two spaces of interest. One of them is called decision space and the other is called variable space. Okay. Now, to solve this kind of optimization problem, we have two different approach. One is called classical optimization approach and another is called evolutionary optimization approach. In classical optimization approach, so this is the approach which we studies in our high school, in which we take a function, we find the derivative, and then we check at which point the first derivative is 0, then we go to higher order derivative, and then we check what is the order of the higher order derivative in which the derivative is 0, and then based on that we decide either it's a minimum point or maximum point or inflection point. But here the problem is, in practice most of the problem may not have a derivative exist. So in that case most of the classical optimization problem fails. On the other hand, for evolutionary optimization technique, this is basically inspired from nature, or we can say human or animal evolution. So this is basically simulates the evolution of animal or human evolution in a computer. And as you see in the right hand side, so here basically in single objective optimization we start from a single point, and in evolutionary computation we start with a population of point, and then we have three different criteria which are selection, crossover and mutation, and with these three criteria we make the decision after so many iterations. Okay, so that's all for some of the theories. Now let us see my project. Okay, so one of my project is basically the design optimization of plate fin heatsink. I think this type of pictures is very similar to all of you. We have seen these inside a CPU. Now, why this type of problem is important? Because all of us, we use different electrical and electronic devices, and all these electrical and electronic devices, they generally generate heat. Now also all of you, as it's a virtual event, you people are using your laptop or maybe phone, and you can see that after a while your electronic or electronic devices, they get heated, and if it is too much heating, so sometimes it is possible that this type of heating may lead to failure. So that is why cooling is really necessary for a very good performance and reliability. And so that is why we design heatsink That's why we design heat sink, so that heat sink ensure that no heat is generated inside, all the heat is getting out. And here we have worked with two different case studies or two different configuration of heat sink. One is called flow through air cooling system and the other is called impingement flow air cooling system. As you see in the picture, in the flow through air cooling system, air is passed, or the flow velocity is in the direction which is parallel to the heat sink. On the other hand, in impingement flow, the flow velocity is in the downward direction or from vertical to the base. So the flow velocity is different in both the cases. And here we have taken different variable like number of fins, what is the incoming velocity, what is the height, width, and other variables. And here we have two conflicting goals. One is the minimization of entropy generation rate, and another is minimization of the material cost. What is entropy generation rate? Entropy generation rate basically ensures that the no heat is inside, all the heat has been thrown out. So if all the heat is thrown out, then my goal is achieved, because I don't want too much heating into the device. Now the problem is, if I have only one goal which will tell that I want to ensure no heat is inside, now it is possible that the optimization algorithm will tell me a solution which is a larger size of the heat sink. Now we can see that now we are using flat TV, then laptops are also getting thinner and thinner. Now no one of us is interested to buy a device which is larger inside. The thing is, if the fin is larger inside, so then the device will be consume more space. So that is why the buyer will never buy if my device has a heatsink or has a component which is larger inside. And also it will affect the cost. And now for every devices there is a huge competition. So now the thing is, I also cannot have too much cost involved. So to minimize it, or to minimize my production cost, our another objective is the material cost, which so material cost will ensure that we are using a smaller size of the heatsink. Now one of my objective will ensure that no heat is inside, so all the heat is thrown out. On the other hand, my other objective will ensure that the heatsink or overall material cost is minimized. So both are contradictory in nature. So here we have used one of the evolutionary multi-objective optimization known as non-nominated sorting genetic algorithm. So we have used two different algorithms to compare, and we have seen that non-nominated sorting genetic algorithm 2 performed better than the other one. Now, so after seeing the solution visually in the bottom, I have included a table. I have just took some distant point and then I have noted down the solution. Here, with this point, how a decision maker will take decision. Now, to help the decision maker more, what we are trying to obtain, we are trying to understand, can we come up with a relationship between the design variables and the objective or goal functions, so that rather than only telling the numerical data, if we can come up with some approximate mathematical relationship, it will be helpful for the decision maker to choose in more efficient manner. Because here, rather than telling only the numerical value, we are also supplying some approximate mathematical relationship. So this kind of mathematical relationship will help the manager or decision maker in more efficient way. So now, as you can see in the picture, you can see when I am trying to find a relationship between the number of fins with the rate of entropy generation, I can see that there are two zones of relationship which we have identified as zone 1 and zone 2. And you can see that in the zone 1, with the increase in number of fin, the rate of entropy generation is also increased. And in the second zone, even though with the increase in rate of entropy generation, the number of fins are fixed. So here in the first zone, we have plotted a cubic polynomial, and from the cubic polynomial we have got an approximate relationship. And when we analyzed zone 2, we have seen that it is fixed. And when we analyze, we have seen that basically during the optimization process, 40 was the highest number of fin that was allowed. So that is why the optimization algorithm could not go beyond 40, and all this solution just got stuck to the upper bound. So here the decision maker can take another decision that if he want more better decision, it is possible that he has to increase the number of fins so that the optimization results will be different. I have just explained for one variable. So for all the variables, we have done similar study, and it is also possible that there is no relationship. So if there is no relationship, then we are unlucky. We have to make decision based on the domain knowledge. Okay. After solving a problem for electronic and electrical industry, then we have worked with machining process. Why machining process is important? Because in most of our daily life use, so there is some kind of manufacturing process through which it is made. So here also we have worked with two different case studies, in which one of the case studies we have worked with two different conflicting goal, which is operation time and tool life, and in another one we have worked with three different goal. One is operation time, another is cost per product, and another is surface roughness. So here also we have applied different kind of algorithm, and here we have discovered, or we have proposed some kind of new theory to the literature, which is here I have noted as approach 2. So what we do, so generally in classical case, we take a multi-objective problem, then we solve it using evolutionary multi-objective optimization technique. And after that, we have done the knowledge extraction technique, or we can say data science technique, in which I have tried to come up with some relationship between the design variables and the objective function. Here we call it as innovization study. So innovization study is a word which is not exist in the dictionary. So basically how the word innovization has come into picture. Innovization is basically innovation through optimization. If we cut the word innovation and optimization, we can get the word innovization. And next is a multi-objective optimization of robotic gripper. So this kind of robotic gripper we have used for healthcare industry. So when a patient is admitted in the hospital and he is in saline, then the nurse generally control one of the knob to control the speed. So here, but nurse may be busy. So rather than nurse, we have developed a robotic gripper which can control the speed of the fluid flow. And here we have two different objectives. One is the difference between the maximum and the minimum. One is the maximum and minimum gripping force. Why this is important? Because I don't want to change the force so much. So that's why I want a minimization between the maximum and minimum force to ensure that we don't have to change the maximum and minimum force. And my other objective function is the force transformation ratio, which is basically the ratio between the output force and the input force. And my constraints are derived from
Pardon, sir.
geometrical limitation
sir.
and some force restriction. And here we have used two different algorithms to solve the problem. And then after achieving the base set of solution, when decision maker will make the decision, then he may think that, okay, all these are solutions. Basically these points, what are these points? These points are nothing but each point is a gripper. Then we are curious to know how each gripper look like. That is why we have taken three different points identified as point A, B, and C. So out of these three different points, two are extreme point and one is a intermediate point. Now we have drawn the figure with exact dimension, and here you can see these three grippers. Now if I ask you a question, what is the difference between all these three grippers? Can you really see a difference in visual eye? No, because all are looking same. And these really gave us a hard time, because when we analyze the non-dominated solution, we have seen that multiple solutions exist, but when we have taken the solution and drawn the gripper, then we are seeing that the grippers are same. Then we have done the knowledge extraction study or innovization study, and then we have seen that almost all the variables, either they got stuck to their lower bound or to their upper bound or in the some intermediate solution. Only the last link, this last link, so this was different for all the configurations. So this last link was only responsible for different solution. Now, this gives us a motivation or clue to develop a telescopic manipulator in which, if we really want a grip which is really hard or really tight, then my last link will be smaller. On the other hand, if I want a grip which is lighter, my last link can be little bit longer. Then we have extended the study. In the last study, we have used two different objective function. Then we were interested to take some motivation from the natural scenario and do the design. Then we have, as you can see, this species. So this is a parasite inside one of the fish gill, and if you can see, this is actually little bit looks like a robotic gripper. So that parasite we have modeled as a robotic gripper, and we have compared it with one of the artificial gripper developed by robotics scientists. Now, what is the goal? Here, our goal is how can we compare if the design by the artificial intelligence scientist or robotic scientist is better, or we know that nature is the best optimizer or nature is the best designer, or the best designer nature, it gives us a better solution. And for this, we have also used piezoelectric actuator to actuate both the robotic grippers. So here we have used different combination of like series combination, series parallel combination. So like that, we have made the problem with 8 different configuration, and then we have used many objective optimization in which we have 5 different conflicting objective functions. And here our results showed that in most of the cases, the one which is inspired from living system provide better grip compared to the artificial gripper made by the robotic scientist. However, in some of the cases, the artificial gripper also performed well. So here it is really difficult for us. Okay, sorry, I forget to show the video. So you can see that the working principle is different. For the living system, the gripper is closed when the actuator is pulling. On the other hand, for the artificial gripper, the gripper is closed when there is a pushing. Okay, thereafter we have worked with one of the design from railway domain. So here basically we have worked with the dynamic response of a rail freight of a 3-piece bogie. So here also we have used multi-objective optimization. Here the problem was really complex because here there was no mathematical relationship exist, and to get one set of data, it took 3 to 5 days for the railway. So they just gave us 36 data points. And if you are from data science background, you can understand that 36 points are really, really less. So that is why we have used some kind of surrogate assistive optimization technique, and then we integrated with multi-objective optimization to achieve the solutions. These are some of the solutions. And here also we have seen that out of 4 different objectives, sometimes 2 of the objectives are redundant. So that's why we have removed the objective, and then we have worked with 2 conflicting objectives. Okay. Then another work with space research. So here basically we are interested to do shape optimization for a reconfigurable parabolic system. So here optimization goal is to how to put the placement of the actuator so that none of the signal will go outside of our territory or outside of our geographical location. So here also we have formulated the problem as a multi-objective optimization problem and then achieve the solution. Okay, so that's all about my optimization journey. So now let us do some data science and then I will move to the IoT. So basically in data science, one of the very common or important problem is the predictive maintenance. Why maintenance is necessary? Because if one or some machines are break down, we cannot have any productivity. So that is why maintenance is really important. So what are the objectives? One is minimize the loss of productive time. If I maintain properly, my production will never stop. So it is a good achievement for my industry because my production is keep on going. Then a systematic maintenance plan will also minimize my repair time and repair cost. Then this will also help me to keep the productive asset in working condition because I am already maintaining it. So I am not allowing it to go ideal. Then I can also avoid accident because already it's maintained, so I can ensure safety. And if I maintain properly, this will also minimize the maintenance time, then man hours and cost. As a result, it will also improve the quality of product. Now, what are the different types of maintenance? One of them is known as breakdown or corrective maintenance. As the name suggests, here the maintenance is done before the breakdown of the machine. Then we have preventive maintenance. This is also as the name suggests. So before the need arise, we do prevention. So here our goal is to minimize the possibility of unprecedented breakdown. Then we have predictive maintenance. So here we use technologies to know when a part or when the whole part will fail in the future. However, they may not fail right now. Then we have routine maintenance, in which we do routine checkup or periodic inspection to ensure that the machine will not break down. Then we have planned maintenance. So here this is the inspection of plants and equipments according to a predetermined schedule. So let's say for our bike and car, we generally take it for servicing every 3-4 months. Similarly, then one of the very new maintenance is also known as prescriptive maintenance, in which we not only predict the maintenance, we also prescribe exactly what type of maintenance must be done. Okay, now there are 5 steps for predictive maintenance. First, we have to identify what are our assets. Then we have to gather the data. Then we have to design the predictive model. Then we manage the work, and then we do predictive maintenance and act smart. So for these we need IoT, sensor data and all. Okay, this is one of our work in condition-based maintenance, in which we have worked with a naval propulsion system. So here, to solve this type of problem, we have used different statistical regression technique. We have used deep learning. Then we have integrated deep learning with principal component analysis. And here we have, even though it's a counterintuitive result, here we have shown that for this problem, compared to the deep learning, regression performed well. Why so? When we analyzed, we have seen that there is a good correlation exists between the input and output data, and as a result, compared to the deep learning, the classical statistical technique, it performed well. Okay, then we have used another problem, which is the design of airfoil. So here also we have used different regression techniques, then neural network, then principal component analysis integrated with neural network. And here our result shows that the best results are achieved by the integration of principal component analysis with neural network, because principal component analysis were able to get rid of the redundant inputs. Okay, then we have worked with another problem, predictive maintenance for Boeing aircraft, and this was really a big data problem. And here we have combined decision tree with neural network, and we name the method as F and not F. So main failing but not falling. So here we want to ensure that failing is okay, but it should not fall, because if it will fall, it may hamper the passenger. And here we have used only neural network and neural network integrated with decision tree, in which in every node of decision tree a neural network was integrated. And here we have shown that neural network integrated with decision tree performed a bit better than the only neural network. Okay, and then we have also worked with the classification of computer hardware. So here for the computer hardware, we have done both the classification and the prediction. So for classification, as you can see that we have classified based on the different vendors, so that a customer can identify which vendor he or she has to go. Then we have used different statistical and machine learning technique, and here also we have changed like what are the training testing ratio, then with different architectures. Excuse me. And here also we have shown that compared to the regression, the deep learning integrated with principal component analysis performed better. Okay, so now after finishing the optimization and data science, they are now IoT. So IoT, as the name suggests, or maybe already this is the fourth day of the workshop, so already you might be knowing about IoT. So basically, what are Internet of Things? At the name suggests, this is basically the integration of some system of interrelated computing device, or it may be mechanical or digital machines, and which are also provided some unique identifiers, so that we can identify what is the role of each device. and it has the ability to transfer data over the network or over the internet without requiring any human to human or any human to computer interaction. So maybe in some of your home already you have a smart fan, because now smart fan already came into the market, in which you can switch off, switch on, and control the speed with internet. So here no intervention is required from human. Then IoT can be a person, or it is a device which is inside a heart of a person, because many people who has heart disease, they have to implant some device. Now the problem is, sometimes there may be a problem with battery, or there may be a problem with some other thing. Okay, it came from my mind. So that device is known as pacemaker. So now let's say if there is a problem in the pacemaker, then the patient generally feel uncomfortable and he has to go to the doctor. But sometimes there may be a life risk. On the other hand, if IoT, with the IoT, if there is a data transfer, and if the IoT device integrated with data science can tell us that the device is going to be failed, or there is a particular defect will occur in future, then before having health hazard, we can take decision. Okay, so basically IoT is a concept in which we can connect any device with a switch on and off to the internet. So it may include everything like cell phone, then coffee makers, then washing machines, headphone, cell phones, lamps, wearable device, and almost anything we can think. Even let's say in future for cooking also, we can use IoT to control the speed of the gas stove, or control the speed of the flame. Okay, so now a question may come, how IoT is related to optimization, or how IoT is related to the data science. So now many organizations in many industries, they are using IoT to operate more efficiently, because as it is connected with the everything is connected with the internet, so it is really good to operate efficiently. I think maybe all of you or some of you also heard about digital twins. So earlier, to make a design, we generally create the design in the computer, then we do the fabrication, and then if failure occurs, we change the design. And nowadays one new concept has come, which is known as digital twin, in which there will be a back and forth data transfer between the device which is running with the computing model with the internet, so that in real time the model can be changed. So as a result, integration of optimization with IoT is really emerging research area. On the other hand, with IoT, we get lots and lots of data, and this kind of data can be used either for prediction or classification task. So IoT has really a large scope with data science and optimization. Okay, so what is IoT ecosystem? So basically IoT ecosystem consists of web-enabled smart devices that are embedded with different processors, sensors, actuator, and communication hardware, which are used to collect and send or act on data which are acquired from the environment. Then this type of IoT devices, they generally share the sensor data and that they collect by connecting an IoT gateway to another device, or either the data is sent through the cloud or maybe it is sent directly. Okay, now what are the benefits of IoT? So there are many benefits. One is, as everything is based on data, so it is really easy to monitor the overall business process. So now, rather than doing all the offline thing, it is really easy to manage the business process. Then another benefit is it will improve the customer experience, because everything is data generated, even customer satisfaction, feedback and everything can be taken care. So it will really improve the customer experience. Then with the integration of IoT, it will save time and money because it will be one-time investment. Then it will enhance employee productivity because employee can also be tracked. Then it integrate and adapt business model. Then it will also help to make better business decision because everything is with respect to the data, and as there are lots of data, so with the use of decision science technique, better business decision can be made. As a result, it can generate more and more revenue. Okay, so now what are the consumer and enterprise IoT application? One is smart car, then smart city, then smart health, smart farming, smart TV, maybe or most of you have at home, then smart building, smart home, smart appliances, and so on, and many will come into picture. I think maybe in 5 to 10 years, our life will be completely with IoT devices. Okay, so now few example. So one is IoT based smart farming. So basically in smart farming, it uses wireless IoT applications which can collect data regarding the location, well-being and health of a cow. And here it generally monitor pregnant cows because there will in a cow there will be many cows. So here when the water breaks, the sensor will send an information and the decision can be made accordingly. Then IoT can also help the senior citizen or elderly people. So let's say if a person is not stable, IoT can automatically detect that he or she either fall down or is prone to failing. So then it will give a medication reminder. Then with a GPS, it will allow the emergency operator to locate the elderly person and then provide the treatment direction to the individual. There is IoT is also used for eating. So it is called Happy Fork. So this is a electronic device or electronic fork which help us to monitor and track our eating habit. So here see, even data, we are so much surrounded by data. Even for eating also the data is getting generated. So this will also alert us when we are eating too fast or too slow. Then smart toothbrush. So this kind of smart toothbrush, it will check the hygiene for the users every day. Then smart egg tray. Those people who eat non-veg, maybe egg is a common thing in your home, and generally people store lots of egg. So these egg minder, it will tell when an egg is going bad, so that this egg can be eaten. And there are 4 stages of IoT maturity. One is the monitoring, then another is control, then another is optimization. So optimization, already I told that there are the lots of scopes are there, optimization and the autonomous. And then basically with IoT, we blend all of data like home data, data of solid waste, then data from health, data from transportation, and data from office. And so by integrating all these, we can really create compound applications. Okay. Then after IoT, smart city. So what is the reason that we focus on cities? Because generally half of the world's population live in city, and by 2050, in next 29 years, 70% of the world population will live in cities. So another 20% will also move in the cities. And then more than 60% cities have yet to be built. I think you might be knowing, even our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, he has also declared to make smart city to many cities. And then cities are center of civilization, life, and knowledge for centuries. And then cities are also forefront for global innovation. Okay. Now what is a smart city? So basically smart city has a very basic infrastructure. Then it uses smart solutions to make the infrastructure and service better and better. And then it is relying on area-based development. Now, what are the objective of a smart city? It should provide basic infrastructure, then it should improve basic quality of life, then clean and sustainable environment, then to apply smart solutions, then set example to be replicated both within and outside the smart city. Okay, so now some of my ongoing work with IoT and smart city. So one of our work, we are basically trying to do optimal network design using multi-objective algorithm for IoT application. So here basically we are trying to develop minimum cost network with maximum coverage and minimum energy consumption. So let us say that we have to install the routers. So now how to install the routers? So first is, if I install too many routers, my cost will be too much high. On the other hand, if the routers are too far, maybe my signal coverage will be less. So here we want to ensure that the coverage is maximum. So we will install number of device which will ensure us maximum coverage. On the other hand, it will also ensure us of minimum energy consumption. At the same time, we are also interested for minimum cost network because we don't want to put much money on it. And another is for the smart city, we are working on land partitioning using evolutionary multi-objective optimization. So as in cities, so sometimes traffic is too high. If traffic is too high, then it is really difficult to maintain if we have land in different part of the city. So then with land partitioning, we are trying to come up with some smart solution in which all the land belong to a particular person will come near. But here many issues will come into picture. First is, let us say that what is the cost in different places of the land. Then if cost is taken into account, then are the people satisfied? Then what are the other criteria? So by satisfying all the criteria or constraints, we are trying to develop a multi-objective optimization technique. Okay, these are some more direction. We are trying to predict the performance of courier rail train driver from a source to destination. So here also IoT data is used when a driver is driving from source to destination in a train. So there are many data and there are many sensors data, IoT data are getting involved. So, but I am not sure, maybe in India it is not the case, but in Korea, being a developed country, they have this kind of data. And with this kind of data, we have identified what are the contributing features which we can say that is responsible for an accident or some other, so that the courier rail can take preventive measures to get rid of that accident from the next time. And then another problem is from healthcare industry. So here is the early prediction of sepsis or multi-organ failure from clinical data. So here basically we are trying to predict when a person is going to collapse, and if we can take decision before that, it will help the person. Of course, this kind of data analysis will be shared with the nurses and doctors, so that already the doctors or nurses have the experience. They can integrate this kind of data science based prediction technique with their experience, so that it will be really helpful to make efficient judgment. Then another of my work is in natural language processing. So here we have tried to do multi-document summarization using evolutionary multi-objective optimization. So let us say that we have multiple documents, and from these multiple documents, we would like to make a summary so that we don't have to go through all the documents. And that's why we have come up with this project. And here for the multi-objective optimization, we have two different conflicting goals. One is the maximization of information coverage. With maximization of information coverage, we would like to ensure that in the limited or generated summary, maximum information is there. On the other hand, one of our another objective is maximization of the diversity of word, so that when the reader read the summarization, he or she doesn't feel that some words have been repeated. Then another is optimization in computer networks. So let's say when the many devices are connected using IoT, so there is a lots of data transmission back and forth. So now, as there is a data transfer back and forth, so now there is a supply and demand. So how this supply and demand can be utilized so that we can get maximum output. Okay. Another direction of my research is neural network communication. So by neural network communication, we need to ensure that different neural network, they can communicate with each other, so that for a new neural network, rather than perform the training from the scratch, it can use the existing data. Then another is prediction of stock markets. I am not going into the details, name suggest. And then this is very interesting work. Here we are trying to predict how to classify the primary and corresponding author in research article, because sometimes the first author is student, and sometimes the first author is the supervisor. Now whose contribution is more? So based on the history of publication, we are trying to predict that. So that is all of my talk. And then I have written two books on optimization. One is Evolutionary Constraint Optimization with Springer, Germany, and then Recent Advances in Evolutionary Multi-Objective Optimization with Springer, Switzerland. So that's all about my talk. Now I would like to welcome any questions, any if you would like to collaborate, or if you would like to praise or criticize. Any question from the audience?
I request audience, if they have questions, they can ask now.
Okay. If there is no question, so I wish again all the best for this event. So, and also I would like to encourage the participant, please attend all the lectures and take notes, and there will be some kind of exam or some kind of feedback session based on which you will get a certificate. So there are many experts and many good lectures. So please utilize the knowledge of all the experts. It will help you to understand the field and also to do some further research in this direction, because these are really upcoming area. Thank you so much again to all the organizers and the participants.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a really interesting and nice session. Please share your PPTs further. You can send me. I will share with the
Then
participants.
shall I log out?
Yes, sir.